Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. My name is Michelle Schuff. I'm an archival consultant for the Fox Theater. I was with the Fox for 20 years between 1994 and 2014, managing the historic collections. And I'm just going to talk to you guys for a couple of minutes today about some of those collections, a few of the highlights, things that I think you might find interesting. So here we go. Thank you. So welcome, come on in. We're going to go see some things in the Fox that you may not have seen before. I'm going to share a few interesting pieces of history with you, and we'll get started. So come on in. I'm just going to talk for a moment about the history of the Atlanta Fox leading up to opening day in 1929. And what you see in the background here is an image from a brochure that was prepared by the Shriners Building Committee entitled "The Magic of Work Well Done." And this was part of their vision for what they hoped the Shrine Auditorium could be. But in 1865, the site of what is now the Fox Theater was actually a Confederate defense area known as Fortification K. A little bit later in the 1880s, it was the site of the Reagan home. It was a large mansion, really beautiful mansion at Peachtree and Kimball Streets, also known now as Ponce de Leon. By 1916, the Yarub Temple Atlanta Shriners announced a major project. They wanted to build a shrine mosque as, quote, Yarub Temple's contribution to the civic growth of the Gate City of the South. Between 1925 and 1927, plans were formalized and they held a design competition. The winning firm was selected, Marie Alger-Veneur, and they began design on the Civic Auditorium. By 1928, William Fox became involved. He signed a 21-year lease with the Yarub Temple, and there were some design changes made to accommodate a greater number of patrons. So this photo you see in the background is probably made in 1928 or early 1929 of the steel structure going up at the Fox. So you can see the steel structure going up for the auditorium. And then in the foreground, some of the retail spaces on Ponce and Peachtree. And you see the arcade entrance there on the right. And then down at the bottom of your screen, there's an image of an early drawing of the Fox. You can see the ticket kiosk here down in the center underneath the marquee, and some of these retail spaces along the front. And those retail spaces were purposefully designed to help generate revenue for the Civic Auditorium, or for the Fox. So a couple of newspaper articles, one from 1925, the Atlanta Constitution. There's an illustration of the city of Atlanta shaking the hand of the Yarub nobles, saying thanks and congratulations. The Yarub nobles are handing over a shrine mosque and civic auditorium to the city of Atlanta. And below that, the headline, Shriners ready to plan actual construction of their new mosque auditorium. And then on the right, also from the Atlanta Constitution, from December 25th, 1929, the day the Fox opened, William Fox has the honor to assist Santa Claus in presenting your greatest Christmas gift. Merry Christmas. Now on with the show. So William Fox had a number of movie palaces across the United States, but there were a handful that he considered to be the jewels in the crown and are comparable theaters. So one was the Fox Brooklyn, opened in 1928, sadly demolished by 1971. The Fox San Francisco opened in 1929, demolished in 1963. The Fox St. Louis opened in 1929, still in operation. The Fox Detroit opened in 1928, still in operation. And of course, the Fox Atlanta opened in 1929 and is still in operation. And so the next few slides are images, photographs of what was the women's cosmetic lounge of the Fox San Francisco that is sadly demolished in 1963. But it gives you an idea of the care and planning and expense that went into designing these spaces. And the next is a slide of the men's mezzanine smoking room from 1929 from the Fox San Francisco. And you can see this is interesting here. What we suspect is an embroidered backed sofa that is very similar to some of those found at the Atlanta Fox. And you know, I just noticed this for the first time. This lamp on this table here, it's a little bit blurry, but it's reminiscent of some of those that I've seen around the Fox. So kind of interesting. Oh my goodness. And I just spotted this one too. So there you go. Could be we have some similar furnishings procured from the same vendors, which would make sense. And this, I'm just being silly here, this slide with a couple of fashionable ladies, 1929. Neither one looks very happy. The one on the left, I'm imagining that she's saying, these furnishings are magnificent. And the one on the right is thinking that she would rather be at the Atlanta Fox. And women's mezzanine parlor, 1929, also at the San Francisco Fox. And this photo, I think this is really such a great image, and it's just so sad that this space no longer exists. But this is the Moorish Lounge at the Fox San Francisco, and you can see the elaborate stencil pattern on the ceiling here, and also on the walls. And some of these may be very familiar to you if you've spent any time at the Atlanta Fox. Some of these are very similar to some of the stencil patterns and colors that you would see in the main lobby at the Atlanta Fox. And then I just wanted to point out the sofa in the background with what we assume is an embroidered back pattern that is not dissimilar. Oh, pardon me. Sorry about that. Not dissimilar to the throne chair on the bottom right of your screen that is at the Atlanta Fox. And then also just wanted to point out this light fixture that's hanging from the ceiling here, very similar to these two at the Atlanta Fox. I apologize. Sorry about that. Oops. Go back, please. Blink. Okay. Not dissimilar to these two found at the Atlanta Fox. The one at the bottom is an 8-sided lamp on the ladies' smoking porch in the mezzanine, and the one above that is from the Mezzanine Men's Lounge. So very similar in many ways, and probably made by the same manufacturer. And so now we'll talk specifically about the Atlanta Fox, and I like this newspaper article here on the left from the Constitution. Not king, nor emperor, nor Croesus could command more. The new Fox Theater, which opens its doors for the first show Christmas Day, is all that modern scientists, artists, and craftsmen could create, with millions at their command and a world of experience to draw from. And the Fox, the last word, which I think is kind of cool. And then down here at the bottom, I don't know if you can see this where my cursor is, Fanchon and Marco Ideas. And we'll talk about them in just a moment. They were brother and sister dance troupe. We've got some great photographs of them in the Fox archives. And here on the right is this photo taken of the Fox in 1929 by Edgar Orr. And you can see it's set up for the orchestra. You can see some of the instruments on stage and the wonderful Mighty Moeller organ here on the left. So I wanted to point out that of all the existing Fox theaters that remain in the United States, not one contains the quantity or quality of original furnishings and lighting as the Atlanta Fox. The Fox collections are as integral to the Fox experience as its exceptional architecture, opulent atmosphere, and extraordinary entertainment. And it's a highly sought after location for both film and magazine industries for photo shoots due to its history and beauty. And I just wanted to point out, you know, you may have been to the Fox many times and may never have noticed the intricate pattern and color in the elevator lobbies. So these are really wonderful spaces that for the longest time we thought were covered with embossed leather panels here that had been glazed and hand painted. And what we believe they are now, we believe this surface is actually a form of wallpaper called Lincrusta that is produced in England still, I believe. So, and here's a detail of that same that same pattern, and you can see the texture and color. Really terrific. So the Fox Theater continues to provide really excellent care for all their collections, and they work with vendors across the country, from Atlanta, Savannah, Chapel Hill, New Haven, and really no expense is spared to protect and preserve their collections. They currently update their collection appraisals, and based on these appraisals and based on the research that we've done internally, we believe that we have about 95% of the original furnishings and lighting that was in the theater when it opened in 1929. The Fox has long cared for the collections, as well as the physical National Historic Landmark building through the restoration fee. Each of our contributing ticket holders shares when they enjoy a performance here at the Fox. And so we could talk about the collections for a long time. We could really get into some detail, but I'm just going to highlight some of the aspects of the collections that I think you might find interesting from the Fox archives. The lantern slides, the jewel drop curtain, the flint faience tile that you'll see throughout the theater, and the historic furniture and lighting collections. So the Fox Archives houses thousands of architectural drawings, historic photographs, modern photographs, early management records, and artifacts. It's really, there's an incredible amount of material found there. So I just wanted to talk about a few of the photos that I find particularly interesting and fun. These two, I don't know if you notice in the background, it says property of T.H. Reed here on both of them. These were 8x10 black and white photographs, all housed in a scrapbook that an early manager of the Fox and Paramount Theaters, his name was Tommy Reed, Mr. Tommy Reed. He kept this scrapbook and kept really amazing records of all of these different shows and movies that had come through the two theaters, and then stamped his photos with his name. And his children were kind enough to share these images with us, so we were able to scan them so we can share them with you. But here on the right is Bud Abbott and Lou Costello in a display, Pardon My Sarong, from 1942. And then on the left, Hold Back the Dawn with Olivia de Havilland and Charles Boyer. And I just wanted to point out, I don't know if you can see this over here on the left, some of the decorative plaster work in the lobby of the Fox. So that's kind of cool. So we can identify where these were. And these displays, we believe there was an in-house art department. Not a lot of people know that there was an in-house art department at the Fox. Oops, pardon me. We think they worked out of the basement, and they would design these different sets. And we think some components probably came from the movie studios themselves, like the images of Abbott and Costello, and then the art department were left to create the rest of the design. And then at the end of the run of the film, we believe they were either sent back to the movie studio or sent on to the next theater for use there. So I talked about the Fanchon and Marco dancers. They were brother and sister dance group. Fanchon Simone and her brother Marco Wolf. They headed up F&M Inc. Each show featured choreography, music, costumes, special acts, special performers. The shows played for 3 to 4 weeks, depending on the film. And they were described as the most famous brother and sister producing team, the standard by which stage shows are judged. That was in Variety in 1929. So these are some of their photographs that we have in the Fox archives that were collected by, we think he was a PR manager. His name was Burton Smith. He had a number of photos of this type. And so here on the left, upper left, is the Fountain of Youth Fanchon and Marco dancers. And you can see they're all, the dancers are all lined up with their suitcases. And I'm not sure what the film was that was playing that evening, but I just thought it was really fun that their suitcases, the pattern on their suitcases matches their scarves and their hats. And then down here on the bottom, it's kind of rather strange, but fun anyway. dancers dancing with mannequins. These are the name of this theme was Just Gigolos About Town. So not sure what the film was, but interesting photo from the Fanchon Marco dancers. And then here on the left, this was Dancers in Black. And then a couple more on the right, we have a display, Old Acquaintance of Betty Davis in Fox Lobby in 1943. And you can see the decorative plaster work in the background here in the lobby. And then this is one of my favorites, a display for the Oklahoma Kid in the Fox Lobby, 1939, with a full-size model of a horse with a cardboard cutout of James Cagney with a smoking gun sitting on his back, and there's actual sand on the ground. They really spared no expense. They went to a lot of trouble to create these really wonderful displays in the lobby. And you can see, so not only can you see the decorative plaster in the background, but if you look closely down here in the foreground, you can see the distinct signature pattern of the fox carpet with the F and then the little moon, a crescent moon here. And you can see it here in this photo also. And this is another great photograph that we have in archives from Rogers Big Stores. It was a kids show and giveaway. And here is the bike that they're giving away. We don't know who the lucky person was who got to go home with this bike. There's a sign over here that says "Silence Please Broadcasting." They don't look like they're very silent. They look pretty happy and excited to be there. And we think that this is Mr. Tommy Reed, the early manager I mentioned a moment ago, here standing at the podium. And this is just one image of the countless posters that are in the posters collection at the Fox Theater. They number in the thousands. The collection grows with every show. It spans decades and provides a rare view of the performing arts, motion pictures, and community events that helped to shape Atlanta since the theater opened. And some of these items are incredibly rare and valuable. And so I want to talk for a moment about the lantern slides and the master Brenograph projector. So on the upper left, you see an image taken in 1929 of the Fox projection booth, Atlanta Fox projection booth. And on the very far left, see if I can run my cursor over here without changing the slide. You see the Brenograph machine and Brenograph projector. And here it is in greater detail from a catalog of the Brankert F7 Master Brenograph. And then here on the right, a photo taken up close. So this equipment was designed in 1928 to produce effects, backdrops, and to project song lyrics. They can project anything but motion pictures, from simple images and song lyrics to fanciful backdrops like snow and rain. But since the Fox opened not long after the advent of sound in motion pictures, longer format films rendered this type of equipment kind of out of date. And so movies got longer and they depended less on secondary entertainments to draw crowds. So the effects produced by the Brenograph became a little bit less important. And these are some scans of a few of my favorite slides of it. So they're actual glass slides that fit into this projector here. And so the light source is inside the projector, shines through the slide onto the screen. And this is what some of the slides look like. So here's one from Ain't Misbehavin', Daisy, and Strangers in the Night, which is kind of fun. And so there were two different types of Brenograph slides. One mainly song lyrics that we just saw. Another little bit larger format glass slide, and they projected scenes onto the stage. And so this machine that you see here on the right was the machine that projected those larger format Brenograph slides. And I just included this to the operators who changed the slides at the touch of a button. I don't know if it was as simple as at the touch of a button, but anyway, that's for them. And then this photo up on the upper left of what projectionists have seen looking out of the projection booth down onto the stage since the theater opened. And so this, I wanted to show you guys this. I think this is really pretty interesting. So these images on the right are printouts from a catalog, from the Brenograph catalog, of these larger format scene setting slides. And these were tacked in a cabinet that was in the projection booth. By the way, this cabinet looked like someone had just put it together, maybe an early projectionist, maybe a carpenter, and painted the interior of this cabinet with a sky blue, like really, really bright blue, that matches the blue of the sky in the theater. So we think, well, maybe they had a little bit of extra blue paint left over. They slapped it on the inside of this cabinet, and when it dried, they attached these catalog images to it. And so these are fun because also inside the cabinet, so they had these images. There were little tiny slots, and that's where all of these larger format slides fit. So projectionists would maybe get a call from someone in production downstairs. Okay, we want put the Sherlock Holmes slide up, number 128, and maybe the George Washington with drapes, or George Washington with flags, or perhaps even, where did he go? The makeup artist. So this is maybe an actor putting on his makeup over here on the right. Put those up on the screen, or perhaps this city scene. And so this is just kind of fun. I don't know that a lot of people have seen these, and I just wanted to show you guys this. Here's this Prizefight Ring in the catalog, and this is a scan of the actual slide. So just really wonderful images. So the overall collection of the Lantern Slide collection, they include over 500 songs, and then like these there's some feature advertisements and scene setting. All of these were digitized in 2010. And so we don't have to handle the original glass slides any longer to project them for a sing-along. But I just wanted to tell you or show you how this system works. So now everything's digitized. You don't have to handle the glass slides any longer. But up until 2010, the system was, I would get a call from the organist who would say, I want to play, this song, this song, this song. I want to play Take Me Out to the Ball Game, or, You Are My Sunshine, and you name it, go down the list. And so, okay, so I'd go over to the drawer, I'd pull those glass slides out, I'd put them in order. So for every song, there could be multiple slides in each song. Put them all in order, number them with little stickers, basically, and then put them in a little basket and carry them up to the projection booth, where I would give them to the master projectionist, Scott Harden, and he would set them in this little tray right here, all in order. And somehow he showed me how he did this many times, but it really was like magic. He would project them during the sing-along. So he'd put a slide in this device here. He'd get the second one set up, maybe down here. Anyway, it's pretty incredible. But that it was not that long ago that is how the system still worked until 2010. Now they're digitized, but anyway, just kind of fun little piece of history. And so the historic furnishings, we'll talk about these for a moment. And so this is an image of the lower ladies lounge, and you see this wonderful fixture hanging from the ceiling here, and some of these great lamps and chairs in the room. So it was long rumored that the furnishings were procured by Eve Fox, or Eva Fox, who was the wife of William Fox. But we didn't know that for certain until a few years ago, when Aaron Appraisal Services found this wonderful 1930 census list where Eve Fox, you can see William Fox here, and here is Eva, his wife, out of New York. She lists herself as interior decorator of theaters. So that confirmed that she did indeed design these spaces and procure the furnishings for them. And I just wanted to say that the Fox Furniture Collection is really a living testament to 20th century decorative art, Chicago furniture making, and the opulent movie palaces of the 20s. It's really a fine example of all of those. So Eve Fox procured these furnishings from a Chicago retailer named Mandel Brothers. They were mostly made to order by Ketchum and Rothschild, who was a well-known Chicago upholstery wholesaler that was established in 1879. Most pieces were custom made for the Fox, but some were supplemented from Ketchum and Rothschild's standard inventory that was available at the time. And so this is a great advertisement here on the left of a little love seat from their standard inventory. Unbelievably, it says hand decorated, $25. It's incredible. And then on the right, you may recognize this from the Mezzanine Ladies Lounge. This is the same piece. So this came from Ketchum Rothschild's standard inventory, but we suspect that the decorative painting may have been altered for each installation. So it may have been specifically painted for the Fox Atlanta. And here's another ad, the Mandel Brothers, famous Ketchum Rothschild factories. Every piece is the work of skilled craftsmen. And so here's it says famous Knoll sofa, $175 with little bun feet. And you'll see the same piece here. This image is from 1929 of the same sofa. And you can get a better view of those great light fixtures that we saw early on, as well as some of these tags from the manufacturer for Ladies Lounge Mezzanine. This is on underneath a footstool in the Mezzanine Ladies Lounge. And then here's another ad for a love seat, wonderful love seat from their Ketchum Rothschild inventory. And then on the right, you see it after it has been restored or sent for conservation. This would have been maybe 2010, I think. And you can tell it's been lovingly upholstered. All of the upholstery patterns line up with this really wonderful gimp trim. And this is in the lower ladies lounge now. So the Fox furniture is the largest cache of original furnishings of any remaining Fox theater, coast to coast. The manufacturer was well respected in the Chicago furniture trade, and they produced a high quality product line that was sold by retailers across the United States. Ketchum and Rothschild was a family owned company. They employed Chicago's immigrant craftsmen who were skilled in gilding, carving, and upholstery at a time when Chicago was the center of furniture production for the US. And the Fox collection has really stood the test of time with over 200 shows and hosting more than 100 private events and 500,000 visitors each year. The Fox collection is a living testament to the exceptional craftsmanship of the Ketchum and Rothschild's workforce in the late 1920s. Only the Atlanta Fox retains the majority of its original furnishings, even among all the remaining Fox theaters around the country. It's the last of its kind, an incredibly valuable asset. And Ketchum and Rothschild furniture itself is exceptionally rare also. Conservation efforts. So this image is of an upholsterer from the Atlanta Area Tech School who is upholstering. This is a love seat. I don't know if you may have seen these in the Mezzanine Ladies Lounge. They're covered in pink mohair. And this piece, this would have been probably only the second time these pieces were ever upholstered. So they came from Ketchum and Rothschild in 1929 with their original upholstery. That upholstery was probably wearing thin by, this photo was taken in the 1970s. So she's reupholstering these pieces only for the second time. And so these are just a few of a couple of the preservation projects, conservation projects with the furniture. I just wanted to say that the Fox employs the best possible vendors and highly skilled artisans to help preserve and maintain their historic collections. Up above is that same piece that we saw in the catalog. This on the right, upper right, is a photo of these pieces. There's several of them in the lower ladies lounge at the Atlanta Fox. So this would have been taken in 1929. And by the time I started in 1994, these had been reupholstered once with a fabric that was similar, not exactly the same, kind of a Venetian pattern. But by the 2000s, it was really starting to become threadbare, and so we needed to reproduce the fabric somehow and make a decision about what that would look like. And so we were very fortunate because all we had was this little scrap of fabric, just a couple of inches long, and these black and white photographs. And from the black and white photographs, we could deduce what the pattern was to a certain extent, and from the scrap of fabric, what the colors were. And so put those two things together. We worked with Schumacher, and they developed this great fabric for us. And then later these pieces were sent for upholstery conservation. And like I mentioned earlier, you can see they did a really careful job about how everything is aligned, and really were masters of their craft. And then down here on the bottom is a piece, I believe this piece was from the men's lounge off of the Egyptian ballroom. And so it's been sent for conservation. And the very first step in this slide here, you can see it's being de-upholstered. So all the upholstery is being taken off. And then the next one over, some of these, the frames are damaged or loose, and they need to be reinforced. So you can see the conservator has deassembled the piece, numbered everything, and then he or she will go ahead and reassemble it. And this is the frame being reassembled here before reupholstery. And another image on the left here, this is another upholsterer from the Atlanta Area Tech upholstering one of the throne chairs in the 1970s. And I just wanted to say that sometimes it can take years, really years, to locate the appropriate artisans and craftspeople to repair or reproduce some of the Fox materials. For example, these embroidered back pieces, it took years of trial and error. We really scoured the globe to find the people who could reproduce these embroidered backs in a way that we were happy with. There's a lot of trial and error. Like I said, we were finally very lucky and found a wonderful company named Penn & Fletcher in the Northeast. And they were able to reproduce these backs using vintage embroidery machines that were very likely the same machines that were used to produce the originals in 1929. So really a lucky find. And speaking of that, I'm being silly, but it was kind of true. So finding the right people to treat the Fox collections was a little bit like finding a unicorn. So once you find that resource, that person who can repair these things up to your standards, you really want to hang on to them. You don't want to let them go. And so now we'll talk about the lighting collection for a moment. And this is a photo taken in 1929 of the Mezzanine Lobby, and you can see this great lantern hanging from the ceiling here, and then some of these lamps along the way with the teardrop crystals, and then some of the other furnishings scattered throughout. So by 1929, the electric bulb was still pretty new, and so often in some of these light fixtures, bulbs were visible on purpose to advertise how modern they were. And the Fox kind of exemplifies a 1920s modern aesthetic, but it was created with the illusion of antiquity, opulence, and foreign mystique. We have 324 items in the Fox inventory, and then I just wanted to point out this. This is an inventory made in 1935 by Fox Management, and they went around and identified absolutely everything that they had in the collection: desks, lamps, light coves, windows, cloud effect machines. And then down here at the bottom, 8-post lanterns, 6 feet 4 inches tall, 5-panel amber glass shades, sterling bronze. So Sterling Bronze Company produced most of the lighting for the Fox Theater, also known as Sterling Bronze or IP Frank out of New York. Some of their pieces live on in museum collections like the Metropolitan Museum of Art and the Smithsonian, as well as with private collectors. And so I love this photo of the lower men's lounge. It's so clear, and you can see these terrific floor lamps here. These are still at the Fox. They're very fragile, but they're still there. This wonderful lamp that is hanging over the table. And then here's a close-up of one of those floor lamps that's in the mezzanine with the glass teardrops. And then over here, I love these pieces. There's two of them. They're hanging from the dress circle. They're spherical brass lamps. They hold 40 pieces of slump-fired opalescent and amber glass inserts. And literally every single piece of brass or glass in the fixture is custom made. So all of these to be repaired or any little component, it has to be custom made at this point. So the lighting was really a vital aspect of the atmosphere of the theater. It wasn't just utilitarian. It was designed specifically for specific spaces and to create atmospheric effects. Artisans able to repair and reproduce some of these components are really rare. Like we talked about a moment ago, it's very challenging to find the appropriate people who can maintain these items. So it's really critical that we care for these treasures because they can't be replaced. And so I just wanted to point out this piece here, really lovely light fixture hanging in the over the table in the lower ladies lounge, and how nicely that illuminates that space. And then over here on the left, you see that love seat that we talked about, number 63. It's one of my favorites. So flint faience tile. So there, you may have noticed there's a lot of really wonderful colored tile throughout the theater. And here on the right is a photograph taken in 1929 by Edgar Orr of a fountain in the main lobby. And you can see there's a peacock design at the base and a lot of tile here in the background, embossed tile. So flint faience tile has been described as the vogue and alluring interiors. It was produced in Flint, Michigan between 1921 and 1933. And they were actually fired in the same kilns that AC Spark Plug Company used to fire their spark plugs. Flint faience produced custom tile. They employed 20 to 40 all-star artists as well as architects to assist with exclusive tile installation designs. And they didn't advertise in popular magazines. They didn't cater to the general public, but they concentrated on high-end custom architectural installations like the Rockefellers, the Guggenheims, and DuPont homes, to name a few, as well as some cruise ships and other buildings like the Fox. And here are a couple of catalog covers of mosaic tile for faience tile. And here it is, the vogue and alluring interiors for all the tomorrows to come. And here is a fountain design in mosaic faience. And so this is a close-up of, I believe this is up in the auditorium. It's kind of a blurry photo, I apologize, but you can see some of the raised edges and color. And so the way this was produced is called a dry cord technique. It's a tile making process to create some of these brightly colored ceramic tiles. Developed in Persia in the 1400s and then later brought to Spain, it prevented the colored glazes from running together, and it allowed for creation of intricately colored designs. And so here are a couple more examples. So a design would be drawn onto a pre-fired tile, and then a greasy substance was used to fill in the stamp depressions or drawn over the drafted area to outline the design that you want. Originally, the substance would be a mixture of grease, animal fat, and iron or manganese carbonate to create a thin or thick line, black outline. And then within that outline, you could apply your glaze with a fine-tipped bulb syringe for accuracy. And so the jewel drop, and here's our photo again of the jewel drop curtain and the orchestra all set up for someone to begin playing their instruments. So the jewel drop is really wonderful and special, and really it's very rarely seen. So most of the time it is not on view. It's very fragile, but really a treasure. So it's hand painted rayon and cotton with metal wrapped thread and silk. It's silk wrapped cords decorated with colored stones, sequins, rhinestones, fringe, metallic thread. It features animals, figures on horseback, and a mosque or a castle. It's about 40 feet high and 80 feet wide. And here are some close-ups of, this is a few years ago during conservation. So it's made of 20 gold-colored silk fabric panels. Each is about 50 inches wide and decorated with hand-painted and applied scenes. So here on the right, you see a figure with, you can see the stones that are sewn onto his jacket. And then here up close, you can see some of the gems and rhinestones that have been sewn into the silk. And then this is the seam. So this would be one of those panels, the 50-inch wide panel. And you can see the seams there where they're stitched together. And then a close-up of this castle and some of the stars and rhinestones. It's really spectacular. And so in 1929, purchased for $30,000. The cost to recreate it now is really inestimable. And like many Fox treasures, it cannot be replaced. So I just wanted to thank everybody for tuning in today to learn a little bit about some of the highlights of the Fox Theater collection. And thank you.